Does your foundation keep settling into your fine lines and end up making you look older than you actually are? Well, I'm going to walk you through exactly what you need to do step by step to make sure that no foundation settles into fine lines or wrinkles. This is my exact routine as a professional makeup artist when I'm working on people who tend to have foundation settling into fine lines or wrinkles. We're going to stop that happening step by step so your foundation actually looks smooth all day. If you're new here, welcome to my channel, and for those of you who've been with me right from the start, welcome back. I'm Nina, I'm a professional makeup artist, a beauty expert. I work on celebrities, I work on royalty, I work on normal everyday people, and basically I've worked on hundreds of faces. So I'm going to be sharing everything I know with you guys. And by the way, when it comes to fine lines and wrinkles, I know what I'm talking about because I'm 45 years old. I do generally take care of the way I look. I am very very solid with my skincare. I have treatments done such as like salmon DNA, Sculptra. I don't have filler done. I do have Botox twice a year. And that's it. That's basically what I've done. So Sculptra I've only had a couple of times, by the way, so it's not something I've done for a very long time. Even salmon DNA, only had it twice. But yeah, I just want you to know that I deal with fine lines, I deal with wrinkles, I don't use filler, so nothing is smoothed out with filler or anything. Like it is, I have fine lines here. I deal with a lot of it on the under eye area, my crow's feet here. So I do understand how it all works, and my skin has changed over time because obviously, as you guys know, your skin changes, especially as you get through into your 40s, things start to like rapidly change, and you've got kind of like, it's almost like you're trying to like, you're just chilling, you're walking, and then all of a sudden you've got to start running to catch up with everything that's happening to your skin. And sometimes we don't catch up, and that's okay. But today I'm going to show you how to make sure that none of that makes it look really obvious on the face through your foundation. So step one is skincare and prep is everything. You want to make sure that you do prep your skin correctly, but you leave enough of a gap between each layer. So foundation creasing actually usually starts before you've even got to the foundation part. If your skin isn't prepped right, it doesn't matter what foundation you go for and what tips and tricks you do, it could end up still creasing. It's going to sink into lines, and it could be for all sorts of reasons that has to do with your prep. So a couple of things I just want you to remember. Leave a gap between each layer, and what that means is let that layer settle down into the skin before you move into the next one. Use products which are not overly heavy, not piled on too much onto your skin. Don't use too much of it, and also at the same time don't use too little, because then it can start to look a bit cracky and crepey because it's so dry. So make sure you're using a decent amount but not overloading your skin. It shouldn't feel greasy to touch. Okay, so I've got my moisturizer, my Pecan Keto Cream. Let that settle down. Now I know you see me using my SPF before my moisturizer. I do most of the time, but today I'm trying a new product, so that's why I haven't applied it. But I'm putting my eye cream on now, my MAC Hyper Real Serumizer. And let's get that on. I've been using this for a while now, and I have to say, it's a good base for my eye area. It definitely works really well under makeup. I don't know if I've noticed much of a difference in terms of like my dark circles, but then, I mean, it is a bright eye treatment, so I guess it should have, right? But yeah, I don't know if I've noticed anything, to be fair, with that. But yeah, anyway, moving on. My moisturizer is nicely settled down into my skin. I'm using something new. This is also a primer, and I'm super excited about it because I have tried it. It's the Anastasia Beverly Hills Hydra Prime. This is an SPF 50 primer. I was so excited when I first used this because I was like, finally, we've got another primer and SPF. And I tell you what I really love about this. It doesn't feel greasy on the skin. And it really does work well as a hydrating primer. Love it. So definitely something I would recommend. Links are in the description, and it's really like a good tube, I think. It's like a tube, yeah. But it's really easy to kind of travel with. I really like it. I'm super impressed. Definitely one of my favorites from Anastasia so far. There's a few other products I love from Anastasia, but this is more base-wise that I'm not usually like that obsessed with, but I really am with this. Ultimately, what you want is hydration without the greasiness, and that's what I love about this primer. It sinks into the skin. Your skin feels very hydrated, but it's not greasy, and plus you've got your protection. How great is that? and it's SPF 50. And by the way, it smells really good. You don't want to slap everything on. You don't want to overload everything. So everything was very strategic. A pea-sized amount of my moisturizer, a pea-sized amount of my primer stroke SPF, and a lentil size of my eye cream. No, there are so many different types of lentils. You could have been thinking of like a big lentil. Okay, what I mean is like half, not even half. Oh my God, it's just a very tiny bit of the eye cream. That's it. You need to wait for everything to settle down, because if you start applying your foundation when things are still quite tacky on your skin, it's going to slip and crease basically. At the end of the day, primers can be your best friend or your worst enemy, because you don't want something that's going to slip all over the place, and there are some primers like that. You don't want anything which is too heavy or too heavily silicone based, because what happens then is the foundation can sit into the lines easily that way. Look for smoothing primers, look for hydrating primers that are not greasy. Less is more, but over time you'll realize like what the perfect amount is, what the sweet spot is for you. Quick thing, if you are enjoying this video so far, please do hit the like button, hit subscribe and the bell button so that you don't miss any of my future videos. Getting right back into this, let's move on with foundation. You want to pick a foundation that isn't, again, too heavy, too kind of thick either, because all of these different things can end up helping it to sit into your fine lines and creases. Even if right now you can't see the fine lines and creases, like the fine lines and wrinkles so well, the foundation will find it, trust me. So you want to go for something quite lightweight, nothing too heavy. Now, what happens if you want really good coverage and you obviously don't want something too heavy? Then I would go for something like the Dual Forever foundation. Amazing coverage with that, but it doesn't sit in your lines or cake up or crease up in your wrinkles, because it's actually very lightweight but great coverage. Now what I'm going to use is something which is a little bit more hydrating, because my skin's feeling a little bit dehydrated, and it's also not heavy at all and doesn't sit in creases. I'm using the MAC Studio Radiance in NC38, and I'm going to get this onto the back of my hand. Now my skin has settled down, so it's ready for the foundation. I've got this spot here that's just come out of nowhere. Just thought I'd point that out in case you haven't already noticed. Okay, so now what we're going to do is get a really thin layer on the skin. I've gone for something which is hydrating, because it's going to actually make my skin look healthy. You don't want to go for something which is too overly matte or like too heavy. You want something that is lightweight, hydrating, and this foundation is perfect because it's light, it's hydrating, it's kind of like, it gives me that nice kind of healthy bounce to my skin. And also it's infused with good ingredients, so it keeps my skin looking good throughout the day. And the key here is to apply less than you actually need. So I'm going in with a very thin amount. So I've hardly got anything off the back of my hand. And I've also made sure I've really buffed it into my brush, so much so that you're not getting that kind of immediate transfer. You've got to keep buffing it to get the product onto your skin. And then you go back into it, really buff it into the brush, get a thin layer. Honestly, I think the biggest piece of advice I can give you here is go with less than you actually think. If you just follow that, you'll understand what I mean. And the thing is, you won't immediately see it, by the way. You'll see it more at the end, where you'll realise that actually, yeah, I was right. I only needed that very tiny amount. Initially, you might be like, okay, I've got nothing else on my face. I've just got a layer of foundation and I feel like I need more. And the reason you think that is because you're seeing the dark circles, you're seeing all the other bits that aren't finished. Once those bits are done later, you'll realise that the smallest amount of foundation was all you actually needed. So I'm not actually going to go in with any more, because I actually feel like this is enough. It's such a thin amount. It's honestly so lightweight. It's definitely not packed on at all. I still see my flaws. I still see that spot. It's fine though, because you want to trust the process. Now this is where we want to go with concealer, and this is where you're really going to see that you didn't need so much foundation. Now I want to go with a concealer that's going to help to cover the areas up that I need to cover, like my dark circles, but it's also not going to sit in fine lines. You don't want something which is kind of going to stay too creamy and fluid on the skin, but you also don't want something that's going to dry too quickly, because it can build up and be too heavy for your skin. So the perfect in between for me is the Too Faced Born This Way multi-use concealer. I'm using Natural Beige because it's a little bit lighter than my skin tone. Now I've got my sponge. I want to spray this because I want it to be a little bit damp but not too damp. We're then going to go into this. I'm just going to get my eyelids done very quickly. So just kind of like hit pause for a second in your mind. we're just going to get this done because we want to focus on the lines and everywhere else. But actually, to be fair, on the eyelids, you do get creasing. And I know a lot of people struggle with this. So here's my tip. So pay attention, guys. This is going to really help you. So now we've got our eye cream on there, right? Everything's nice. It's settled down. We didn't put too much on. That's another reason you don't want too much eye cream, is because you do want to make sure that you have the thinnest amount on there. You don't want product buildup. So if you really struggle, here's a little tip for you, which you're going to love. And you could use this, to be fair, on the rest of your face if you want. If you feel like you really struggle, then you can use this as a tip throughout, like before we even applied the foundation. Now what I'm going to do is, before I put my concealer on my lids, I'm going to get a little bit of powder on my Real Techniques brush. So I'm using my Huda Beauty Easy Bake. I'm going to lightly go over this bit here because I'm just pretending I creased there very easily. Then we're going to go in with our concealer on top. I only applied a small amount of powder, by the way. That is going to basically dry out the area, because what happens is sometimes the creasing appears because we've got a lot of oil production in that area. So what we're doing is really soaking that up and drying it out so that there is no kind of fluidity in that area. Then we're going to go over with the powder puff and a bit of powder, and I'm making sure I'm not actually flicking my eyelids up and down because that's going to create creasing. So we're really making sure. I've got a bit of glitter here. I've just randomly seen a bit of glitter there. Okay, now very quickly dust off this powder. You are not going to get any creasing there. And again, if you struggle, so this is the tip for you guys, very simple and easy. I've applied my foundation. We're going to go into concealer on all of the face now, right? If you have done this routine that I'm going to show you now, and you still feel like, even by reducing the amount of product, like skincare prep and all that kind of stuff, and putting a thin layer on, you still get the creasing, then this is the tip I want you to use. Dust a little bit of powder onto the areas that you tend to see that build up of product in creasing, in fine lines. Dust a thin amount of powder on top, and then you continue with your foundation. So just before you apply foundation, you're going to add a little bit of that powder and then continue as normal. Because what it means is, maybe it's not the case of skin prep for you. It could be that you have a very high amount of oil production, which then leads to that product build up, all that stuff happening in your fine lines and wrinkles. Okay, so let's now add our concealer, and I want a bit of a lift here and here, and even though I've still got that spot there, I'm going to show you what I do with that. Okay, right here we're going to make sure that this is staying in the same place, but just softening it. There you go. It's given us a nice kind of lift there. Same thing here, taking this up here for that lift, but we're not really going on the rest. We're not really going on the rest of the face. And then same here. Whatever's left on this sponge, I'm just going to take it over that spot that I've got there. There you go. So we haven't actually gone too heavy on the areas that I generally crease, which is my smile lines and even the under eye. Like, I'm going to show you what we do about that. Right, obviously we've got product on. Obviously it's going to build up. But can I just rewind very quickly and say to you, now do you see why you need the smallest amount of foundation? Look how much foundation we applied. A very, very small amount. Hardly any. I've still got so much of it on the back of my hand that it's dripping. You need the smallest amount because your concealer will cover the rest of the areas for you. And then you realize that actually I didn't need that much on the other areas. Right, this is what we're going to do because we're really focusing on making sure we don't get creases in the fine lines. I'm going to go on the assumption that you know where those areas are for yourself, that you usually crease up or the product usually sits in those areas. And if you don't, then you need to figure that out first. And what that means is put your foundation on as normal, really analyze where everything sits in so that you can take a mental note or write down, right, okay, smile lines, I crease, the product's creasing there. Look at your makeup like later on in the day, okay, I can see it's creasing there. Make a note of all these areas so that you know. At this point, we're going to target those areas right now. Now, I want you to get either the tip of a sponge or you can get a brush, and if you're using a brush, I'd recommend something like something pretty soft. So let's see, what have we got? Okay, let's use this BK Beauty 207 brush. Great brush for that, like for what we're going to do, because it's soft and it's kind of, it's small enough to really focus on the area that we want to focus on. What we're going to do here is we're going to take out the product from the areas that it's creasing up in, or that we know that it generally does. Again, you can use the tip of a sponge if you want. The reason I'm saying you can use a brush as an alternative is because with a sponge, it's fine for me because I'm used to doing it. But I feel like with you, if you're not used to it, then it could be that you can't really see what you're doing properly and it's all a bit all over the place. So at least with this, it's very targeted and visually it's a lot more focused for you. Now what I want you to do is look in the mirror and really focus on those areas, because we haven't applied the powder yet. Where is it that you crease? Even if it hasn't started creasing up yet, I want you to still do this. Now here is where it creases up. What I want to do is just very lightly go on top and just kind of like picking up the product that is there that hasn't necessarily creased yet. And all you're doing is making sure that there's not as much product in those areas than there is everywhere else. So very lightly skimming over the area is going to pick up product that you don't actually need there. And it shouldn't leave a mark in the sense that, oh, now I can see that I've got no foundation there. If it does do that, that means you've put too much on to begin with. So it shouldn't be leaving a very obvious difference. Then under eyes. I really stretch it out. You've got to stretch out wherever the crease is. I can already see that creasing there. Get a tissue so that you can wipe off what's on the brush. Same thing here. There you go, we've picked out the product. Now, first thing we're going to do is set those areas. Got my powder puff, go into the powder here, make sure it's nicely covered. Go into the palm. Set the under eye immediately. It's the first place to crease, that is. Go in there. Right, now that we've done that, go on to the smile lines. There you go. Now you can go in with this powder anywhere else that you want to set. You might want to do this bit with a brush if you want, which is fine. I like to use a puff if I want to keep it on all day. Right, now I can dust it off. So I'm going to use my Real Techniques brush. Do the under eyes first because we don't want that to bake or anything. Smile lines. Then you want a bigger brush. I'm going to use my Veil brush. And we're basically dusting away the powder everywhere else. Now you shouldn't get any creasing now. At this point, everything is done very well. We've been very strategic and we've made sure that there's nothing that's going to sit in those fine lines. By the way, if you do like videos like this and you want to see some videos which are like about, you know, top foundations for this skin type, best concealers for this skin type, best concealers for 40-year-olds, best concealers for 50-year-olds. Head on over to my other YouTube channel, Nina Ubhi Beauty and Fashion Reviews. There's a bit of fashion thrown in here and there. Not a lot, but some, a little sprinkling of fashion. Head on over and show your support. I know you're going to love it. Let's just do these brows very quickly so that we look a little bit normal, because by that time, we could see a little bit creasing. So I'm trying to like show you that even after you're done like this, there's other things that you can do. I've got my brow pen from Anastasia Beverly Hills in medium brown. Just gonna do my little strokes. Don't you just wish brows were like really quick to do? Imagine if I could just put some brow wax in there and just the perfect brows. That would be so cool and so quick. I'd love it, but unfortunately, I decided to go a bit OTT with plucking when I was younger and I'm paying for it now. Okay, so I've got the pencil now and I'm just kind of like filling in any areas that are sparse. Okay, brows are done. Let's just add some lip maximizer. Just trying to make myself look semi-normal, because I do want to just focus on the base. Isn't it crazy just curling your lashes makes a difference? Now you're going to get a bigger kind of brush, which is a little bit bigger than what we were using. This one is the 205 brush, just anything that's a bit bigger and fluffier. And now we're going to go over the areas that tend to crease. And again, you know what that's doing? Same thing as earlier, taking the unnecessary product off. But we're just skimming over the skin. I can honestly promise you, but by doing every single one of these little things that I've shown you, it's going to make a huge difference and you're not going to see the creasing as much. It might mean that you need to maybe reduce the amount of product that you're wearing, but over time you'll figure it out. But these little tips and tricks will honestly help you from stopping your foundation from settling into fine lines and wrinkles. I really do hope this has helped. Please don't forget, I have the Beauty Breakfast Club community where it's all about beauty and loads of newsletters that cover everything that you can imagine. So head on over and subscribe. It's free, but there is also a paid version, which literally just costs you the same as getting yourself a coffee a month, and that's it. And I know you're going to love it. Plus there's a group chat and it unlocks the whole thing. So yeah, you want to make sure you head on over there. I really hope you've enjoyed this today. Don't forget, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments, and everything I've used is listed in the description too. So all the links are there. Just head on over, click on it, and it'll take you straight to it. If you feel when you're out and about and you feel like maybe there's some like creasing happening, you're going to find out over time. Like initially you'll be like, okay, I can see some creasing. So now you know the next time that you might see some creasing. So all you want to do is take a brush with you, something like this, and just lightly skim over the area. It's going to pick up all the excess like oil or product that's there. Honestly, it's a savior. So I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video.